we're going to take a short break, and I'm delighted, Don, that it worked. That's wonderful. We're going to take just literally a refreshment break now. Of course, you're very capable of doing that from your own desks and places. And I would invite anyone that is still with us, absolutely use this time to run to a loo or grab a cup of tea or anything. And for those of you who are still here, I just invite you to join with me. Just a very short, we'll get on our feet if that's okay. And we'll just take ourselves a little bit away from the screen. You don't need to see what I'm doing, you just need to be able to hear me. But let's just find a moment to, wherever you are, in your rooms, kitchens, offices, joining us here today, to just take the eyes away from the screen. You might want to just close the eyes for a moment. And maybe just put one hand on the chest or a cheek or a hip bone, and maybe just notice for yourself a bony place on your own frame today. So we've heard many themes going from water into stone, and I'd just like to introduce, as we're gathered here from our different sites and locations, that perhaps there is a little correlation that we can link today for ourselves between bone and stone. And as we just rest those bones, whichever part of the body is in connection with its own sister bone, noticing if there's a little conversation maybe to be had there between the finger bone, the clavicle, between the breastbone or the skull, and thinking down into the bones of the feet. Can we find a little bit of pressure perhaps into the floor, even if we're standing on carpet right now? And we could even take our weight a little bit forwards to push into the balls of the feet. So bones love to have a little bit of pressure given into them. Just actively allowing the skeleton to just come a little bit alive and back into our own frame. A little bit out of the screen for a moment. And just letting all those extraordinary images and stories and propositions and ideas just float and settle somewhere into our own recent, as well as perhaps more past memory of place. And perhaps we'll just let the hands come back down to the sides of the body and just take 3 nice long breaths in through the back of the nose, filling up the air through the lungs, down into the belly, and releasing as we soften the backs of the knees. And really finding space through the breath and a little bit of extra energy coming in through the body. Finishing your own breath in your own time. And you're welcome to, in your own time, coming back into the screen. Hopefully that felt a little bit like a mini refresher. And of course, feel free to move or to do whatever you need to do right now. There's no reason to come straight back to us. So we have 4, in fact 3 more presentations to do today, and we're really keen. We have some wonderful thoughts and comments coming in through the chat line, and we're really keen to get to those. But we'll push on. Those of you who received a schedule, we're going to, because of the technical issues or challenges around sound, we're going to move forward, and Tara Baith Mooney is, we're not going to listen to her collectively today. She is featuring at other times along the festival, so there'll be an opportunity to hear, and we'll try and do a recording and make that available for those of you listening today. And then we're going to come back now through Linda Petersson, and we'll see if we can, having had that bone connection, we'll see if we've grounded technology in any way. So we'll try another screen share, and if it doesn't work, perhaps Linda, you can give us a short talk, or just sharing about your work. But I will, just for those of you joining, I'll just introduce again, this is Linda Persson, who is a visual performance artist whose work focuses on questions around that which is historically repressed or about to disappear, or perhaps even already extinct, such as languages or certain technologies. So you're very welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Let's see, then I'll try again. Let's see. Do you see anything now? Do you see my screen?
We're seeing a screen and it's still a dark screen.
What about now? See anything? No, it's very odd. It's like I haven't touched anything. I've closed everything else down. It's very strange why it's not working. I'm really sorry about this. It's kind of like...
It's fine. I mean, you have a very beautiful background. I don't know if it's possible to speak to that and work off your own screen. That's all I can think to suggest at the moment. Ah, yeah. Wonderful. We have it. We have it.
Okay.
Whatever you touched, it worked.
I did exactly the same thing again. All right, never mind. It's fine. So you see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Right. So I'm just going to start where I left off. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again or the beginning. So I will talk about one artwork, which is called the Black Opal Project, SiO2NH2O, as you can see here. And I will talk through some of the images. So this artwork shows a light movement that passes through an opal and is projected back into the room enlarged. The small opal stone is there, visible, and through a microscope connected to a projector, one sees and experienced 180 times enlarged internal structure of this opal, which you can also see on me while I'm reading this. So the opal is at heart of the work, and opals, they carry fascinating stories as far back as the 7th century, or that's as far back as I have found stories from it. And I would sort of kind of trace back how I ended up with opals. And I would actually go to the Blue Maiden, Blåkulla, which was seen on Bodil's presentation of Carl von Linnaeus' drawing. And you could see it up in the corner next to Öland. And this island, I was doing some work on, well, for quite a few years actually, on the Blue Maiden, and it's between the mainland and this island. And it's actually known mostly for this, the Blåkulla, which is related to the idea that witches used to go there for the Sabbath with the devil. But before this, it was also this kind of strange place where fishermen and seafarers used to kind of make offerings to this island. So it's always been this kind of strange place. And actually, when you look at it from either the mainland or from Öland, sometimes it just kind of disappears out of view. So it has had this kind of long connection to strange thing. And Carl von Linnaeus, he really didn't like this place. He kind of said he really would never go back to this place. And today, the kind of it connects back to what I said before, that I was interested in superstition around certain places. And still today, if you take the stone from this island, it tells you that you're supposed to get cursed. So every year people send back stones to the municipality to return those stones. And so what I wanted to talk about was also how I kind of ended up this kind of to the opals, and what brought me closer to the stories around opals. It also kind of, while I was working on this, I was also become aware of something called thin places. And thin places was coined by the ancient Celts, apparently, and then the Christians used to use it as well. And they was to describe mesmerizing places, like it kind of has a boundary between a boundary that is very thin between heaven and earth. And when I was at Burren a few years back as well to visit in Ireland, I was thinking about those dolmen portals that I also think has this connection to a thin place. And there's also something about those things that I often find that kind of has this, it's something ineffable about it. It's like, how do you speak about those things that lies between science and kind of superstition? And in some ways, it kind of goes beyond the power of language to actually talk about it. So that led me back to kind of other sort of myths and looking at other myths. And one of them is Greek mythology that I learned that when Zeus, the water god, was having a war against, let's see, no, it doesn't work again. A war against the Titians and his father. He needed to kill his father, and he was given a weapon, which is like a lightning rod. And he did kill his father. And after they had won the war, Zeus cried tears of blood, it said. And when the droplets hit the crust of earth, they became opals. So opals have always had this sort of kind of strange connection to life and to death, and to kind of electricity or lightning and water. And I think even in the kind of, this is one of the images from the Blue Maiden, which is the labyrinth that Carl von Linnaeus wrote about in 1741. And I made a film in this place as well. And it's also said that this labyrinth is actually moving about between 20 and 40 centimeters every year, and the wardens of the island, they move them backwards. And there hasn't been, I don't know if Bodil knows anything more about this, but it hasn't been any kind of scientific explanation why those islands, so I'm going back and forth a bit now, why those stones actually moves, and they move exactly this. There's been a lot of explanation. There could be snow or ice that has moved them, but it also said that they move, the whole thing moves the same sort of distance. So anyways, so from this island to opals, I got sort of fascinated of like, how can I find these opals? Where do I find them? And how do I kind of connect to this place? So I found this opal that you are looking at now, which is also the one that is projected onto my face. I traveled to this place in Australia called the Wollongula country, but it's also known by its colonial name, maybe more known to us by its colonial name, called Lightning Ridge. And I traveled there in 2015, and I was continuing this research around thin places. And this is also one of those places that has this kind of feeling that it's kind of ineffable in some ways. And it also has this, because